So what's new? Give us the big update first of all.
Well, I would argue of all the causes that people are spending their time with, countless causes that are valid in and of themselves, George, against the backdrop of a collapsing climate system and a collapsing biosphere, and I realize how many people will roll their eyes and walk away at that statement, because it's simply something that none of us want to believe is happening. But I would ask everybody to abandon ideology, preconception, and bias, look at frontline facts. This is not a political issue. This is about life on our planet. And in regard to any political side of the fence or environmental groups, all of whom are ignoring this issue, immense hypocrisy. The bottom line is it's happening, and anybody who does any honest, objective investigation, George, will come to that conclusion. On the current course, we're not going to be around long. None of us.
And it's happening. Why? Is there money involved here, Dane? What's fueling this?
This is important. It's an important question, because many people have convinced themselves that if bad things are going on, it's just a matter of money, and that's the bottom line. But it's not the bottom line. And somehow people think if someone's making money on it, maybe it's not even happening at all. And that's certainly not true. And I would point out wars, George. We all know people make money off of wars, don't we?
They sure do.
Does that mean the war didn't happen? Or the people didn't die? Doesn't mean that. So in regard to the collapsing climate, yes, we have disaster capitalists all over the board. But that doesn't mean the disaster is not real. And that every attempt to, in fact, the attempt to make money off it, which is certainly going on. Climate engineering, I would argue, is perhaps the largest covert money-making venture for the defense industry and much of even the airline industry, which we believe data indicates is being fully subsidized to keep their aircraft in the air, because their aircraft are also being used in these programs. We know that. We're not guessing. We have up-close photographs of the nozzles mounted on the pylons of commercial carriers. Your listeners can look at all these photographs at geoengineeringwatch.org. They're mounted on the pylons, aiming to the exhaust jet stream to make this look like condensation. So there's money being made everywhere in this situation. And we have too many people that in exchange for a paycheck and a pension, George, will continue to help sink the ship with programs that are simply, ultimately, a matter of power and control. It's not for the greater good overall. Absolutely not.
Dane, the skeptics, if they come up to you and say, come on now, where's the proof? Show us what's happening. Prove it. How do you combat that?
Well, to start with, George, if people don't believe what they can see with their own eyes, likely not much I can tell them. It's hard to wake someone who's pretending to be asleep, isn't it?
That's right.
So if people can't, with any sense of deductive reasoning, look up and question why one day's a grid pattern, the next day's nothing, with similar atmospheric conditions, why one trail can be horizon to horizon with an aircraft next to it, similar altitude, leaving nothing, why a trail that's coming across the entire sky just turns off like it's been cut with a knife, why you might have a whole day of spraying at nighttime, and there is spraying going on at night as well, but it more often than not, we will see a backing off of the aerosol operations at night in their attempt to allow some of the radiant heat to escape back up in the upper atmosphere. And George, for those, might I explain for your listeners that don't know what climate engineering, geoengineering is?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Quite simply, it's the attempts to manipulate Earth's climate systems. The stated purpose, primary stated purpose, solar radiation management, to try to reduce some of the sun's incoming thermal energy to mitigate the warming that's occurring from a buildup of greenhouse gases. But George, as you know, when you put a reflective layer of aerosols up, you not only reflect, but you trap it.
Trap it, that's right.
Exactly. And you do a long list of other very cataclysmic consequences also.
You create what you're apparently trying to prevent.
Correct. And then bottom line with geoengineering, they can and are creating short-term, highly toxic cool-down regions at the cost of a worsened overall warming. And George, don't we have the pharmaceutical... I cite this example a lot because people relate to this. How many pharmaceutical commercials do you see every single day on the TV?
Well, they're all over the place.
So you take this new pharmaceutical for a certain ailment, and then you start to listen to the list of consequences.
Right at the end, that they give so fast, you can barely understand them.
But the list is so horrific that you can't imagine why anybody would allow themselves to be a test subject.
If you take this pill, your arms will fall off, your toes will fall off, and your eyes may. I mean, it's just unbelievable stuff.
But yet people are, they're buying into this. They continue to take these elements. And certainly, if one really stands back and looks at the wider picture, I would argue that it's hard not to conclude we're living in a Orwellian insane asylum where black is white, up is down, day is night. You know, every other commercial now is asthma, allergy, Alzheimer's, as if that's something you can expect to get as you get older, dementia, a host of other issues. And again, the toxic, we're back to the toxic heavy metals that official agencies are telling us are not harmful for us, from vaccinations to what's raining down through the air column. For your listeners that don't know, heavy metals like aluminum are a primary element named in climate engineering patents. And we know these elements are coming down through the rain or the air column. We're testing precipitation. And we've got 70 lab tests from Northern California. We have lab tests from all over the country and indeed all over the world. We know these elements are coming down through the air column. In the case of our location in California, we know they're not coming from Asia. That's what a lot of people leap to first. We have California air quality studies to prove that. And they're such immense quantities, and the quantities are recent, so much so that it's changing soil pH values in Northern California. So this is an immense contamination. Mathematically speaking, the single greatest